Good afternoon and welcome to EHC-TV. I'm Madi Codispoti with your feature interview. It's nearing the end of March, which means it's time for students to begin planning their schedules for the 2023-2024 school year. But some first-year students may not know exactly what classes to take, and that's where the first-year advising team comes in. Joining me today is the Director of New Student Academics, Mary Ellis Rice. Mary, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, of course. So my first question is just, this program is fairly new. So can you kind of explain what the Office of First Year Advising is and what they do?
Absolutely. We used to use the first-year advising model in which all students were advised by their Core 100 professors, but a couple of years ago we switched to a professional advising model that's more focused on a holistic approach to advising the whole student, and it allows students to work with professional advisors on campus who, that's all they do is professional advising and working specifically with first-year students. When we moved into the Student Success Center back in July, we had the opportunity to have a physical space for all students to come with questions about advising. And we found that being in that space has been really wonderful for us because students have a place to go when they have questions about everything from how do I declare a major to what's the difference between adding a class, dropping a class, and withdrawing from a class to when should I look into majors in this area versus this area? Mm-hmm. We can always make sure there's somebody there to answer those questions.
Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm. And you did mention that, prior to this, students were assigned to their Core 100 professors for advising. So was this kind of a idea, like a transition that was thought about before, or did it just kind of come about in the last couple years?
It's something that had been in the works planning-wise for a few years prior. And we had kind of a transitional year where there were embedded advisors in Core 100 courses, and that was, I believe, fall 2020. And then starting in fall of 21, we began to assign students advisors based on their intended major interest. So we had an advisor who would cover just STEM as a focus. We had an advisor who would cover social sciences. My area right now, I joke that I'm the Tetris scheduler. I work with students intending to major in the fine arts and in equine studies because those are the schedules that usually have a lot of pieces to juggle. Mm-hmm. And so we now have students divided by major interest, and that allows our major, our academic advisors to plan in advance with those departments that they are connecting with to ensure that each student gets the chance to be placed in the classes that they most need for that course. And that's a great improvement we hope for the student experience, because that means that the advisor a student will be working with has worked with that department, knows what they should take in their first semester to prepare them to declare their major and be right on track to graduate.
Yeah, and you mentioned, you're the director of this program, but you're also a professor as well as doing all this advising. How do you kind of balance those different jobs?
Oh, I wear lots of hats. Deep breathing, yoga, about. I'm kidding. My role is kind of multi-directional. Mm-hmm. I get to work with advising. I also get to direct our Core 100 program, and I direct our first year writing program as well. And so I mostly work, as my title suggests, with new student academic needs in all ways.
Yeah. And on the website for first year advising, you have the acronym ACCESS on there. And so I was kind of wondering if we could go through those different words and kind of explain what those mean in regards to advising.
Oh goodness, I didn't know there would be a quiz on the acronym.
No, it's okay. I brought it with me.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So the first one is accessible.
Yes. We want to be able to be accessible for students. That's part of that word there. And having a place that is a physical central location in the Student Success Center is a big part of that. We also want to ensure that students have access to all of these supports that they need in order to be successful in all their classes.
Yeah. The next one being caring.
Caring. Well, we hope that we are caring, friendly faces who are there to welcome students and help direct them to their needs.
Yeah. The next C being caring, career-oriented.
Something that Student Success is doing this year is partnering with the Career Center on a number of different initiatives. We hope that we can continue that partnership to work together to ensure that students see a natural progression from meeting with a first-year academic advisor to working with the Career Center as they hone in on what it is they want to do.
Yeah. And next we have equitable.
And I think just going in with what I've said before about caring, we are very focused on ensuring that students have equitable access to advising and to knowledge about what majors can do for them and about all the information that they need and their families need in order to have direction while on campus.
Yeah. And following that, we have our next one, which is strengths-based.
We, as I said, work with the Career Center and we refer students to the Career Center a good bit to help them complete maybe some career inventories to help them discern what those strengths are. A lot of times our conversations with students go something like, well, what is it that you really like? What is it that really interests you and motivates you? We want to be able to understand where students are coming from intellectually and emotionally in order to help them discern what the best direction for them will be.
Yeah. And the final one is success focused. And I think that's kind of very encompassing.
Implied, I hope.
Yeah. So my next question is, what are some common mistakes you see when first years are starting to build those schedules?
Ooh. I think one of the things I say most often is if you come in with an expressed interest in a major, you don't need to assume that's where you always need to be.
Yeah.
We often have a lot of times when students come in wanting to do, I can think of a situation last year where a student came in wanting to do biology and was very certain, I'm going to go to medical school, I'm going to become this specific profession in medicine, but then at the end of the year decided, I actually want to be an English major. And so we just really encourage students to be flexible and to listen to what their needs are and to try to discern for themselves what is the best path, not what parental figures in their life want them to do, not what they believe that they should be doing, what it is that they themselves want and need.
Yeah. And so just to wrap this interview up, can you give us your best piece of advice for the student who's looking to get the most out of their time at Emory Henry?
I would just say work on building those relationships with our advisors, our student success coaches, with faculty, other staff, and other students. Just focus on building those connections and those relationships because that's going to be not only the most fruitful investment that a student can make while they're here, but also the most fruitful investment in their memories that they will leave with once they graduate.
Yeah. All right, Mary, thank you so much for joining me today. I've really appreciated talking to you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, of course. That's all for this week's feature interview. I'm Madi Codispoti. Have a great week.